Welcome back to the PricePlow podcast. I'm super excited today to have Diana Morgan with us. Also with us, Mike Roberto, founder of PricePlow, and of course, I'm Ben Kane. Today is, just get all of the formalities out of the way, October 9th, and we are going to be talking a lot about SupplySide West coming up. But first off, Diana, I want to introduce you. I want to talk about everything that you do. Can you give us a little bit of a background on where you come from and what you do?
Sure. Well, where I come from is Jersey, so a fellow Jerseyan like Ben. But I've been in the dietary supplement industry, geez, almost 18 years now. Background in nutrition, master's in nutrition, certified sports nutritionist from the ISSN, and my current role is VP of Regulatory and Government Affairs for Nutrabolt, aka C4, Extend, Cellucor, a lot of the really great sports nutrition brands that you know and love. And then by night, I am founder and chief fun officer for What's Up With Supps. And What's Up With Supps is an industry networking group that we have great events at all of the major trade shows, conferences, and really just bring the industry together.
I met you a couple years back, and I went to a couple of your like early parties, which, like, to me, like I feel like everyone has a friend who's just like really great at organizing parties. Like we all have that one friend who's like the organizer, and it just seems to me like that's what you love to do. And then learning that you were involved in regulatory and government affairs for a company as large as Nutrabolt, but also your resume, your background, you have a couple other big names in there. Was such a fun surprise because there was so much that we connected on. For people also listening who listen to a lot of our episodes, Diana also joined us in Washington, D.C. this summer when we headed down there to talk to legislators about dietary supplement regulations. So I think this is going to be a fun episode. We're going to bounce around a lot of stuff. Mike, did you have a direction that you wanted to start off with? I'd kind of want to like hit the background and come into what she's doing now.
Okay, I was just gonna say, let's kick it off. Like, what's up with Supps? What are we doing in SupplySide West? I'm just curious right now for anyone who's listening in a hurry before we head off to Las Vegas. What's the plan? What's the intention? I guess, and then I would like to go backwards and what's the why of having What's Up with Supps? Obviously, there's no shortage of parties in Las Vegas, but I think you bring a little bit of fun flair. So tell us about that in the immediate, and then let's go backwards with the why.
Yeah, definitely. So we're holding the show closer for SupplySide West on Thursday, October 26th, and it will be at House of Blues in Mandalay Bay, just a short distance from the convention center. And the theme, so all the What's Up with Supps events have some sort of theme that really just makes it over the top. So this theme is retro toys come to life. So think like adult Toy Story. If you ever went to Toy Story land in Disney, you have like the green army soldiers walking around. We're going to have some life-size Lego men walking around, a Lego wall. We'll have some even some competition. So we do have one of our sponsors that makes a cognitive health ingredient, Cognizin. They're going to be doing a Rubik's Cube competition for prizes. So if anyone knows how to solve a Rubik's Cube, start brushing up on that because we will have some awesome prizes.
That's awesome. So where did this start? Like Mike was asking, like what's the why behind What's Up with Supps?
Yeah. So if you guys remember a little thing called COVID a few years ago, that shut down Expo West. And that was, I remember getting the call, like many of us. I had an early flight the next morning and I was about to go to bed. I got a call at 7 o'clock at night that Expo West was canceled. That just doesn't happen. You just don't cancel the biggest trade show of the year. And, when you're in the industry for that long, you really develop your industry friends, which become your industry family, the people you always see at trade shows. I mean, we have so many in the year, about 10 or more at least. So when that happened, I was legitimately devastated. I'm like, I'm not going to get to see this person and this person and this person. And it was that week, I called up, was on our board, founding member, Ivan Wasserman. I said, what do you think about holding in-person networking event for the dietary supplement industry? We'll keep it outdoors. This was during COVID, so everyone was really scared. And fast forward to September of that year, we held our very first event. It was outdoors at Sushi Lounge in Totowa, New Jersey, and we had about like 45 people there. And this was during the heart of COVID, September 2020. People, if they wanted to, they could wear masks outside, socially distance. And the best feeling, and you guys will know what I'm talking about when you see this, when people were coming through the door, I remember the first person, Rick Collins, came through the door, and someone from all the way on the other side of the room, I think it was Salma from Nutrition 21, yelled, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're here." And it was at a time where, we just needed that in person connection to really develop those relationships because, virtual is good. It can solve, a lot of logistic issues, but nothing beats in person being around other people's energy and making those organic connections. So that's kind of how it started. And then, people just loved it and we just kept doing more and more and more.
That's incredible. Now, I just want to say thank you for doing that because I'm with you as well. Like, we can get a lot done here on Riverside or Zoom or whatever, but you need to have that hug. And people getting deprived of it, it was a shame. So that's so cool that you set that up. And I'm pretty sure Ben was at that one, right?
I was at the Morristown meetup, which I think was soon after.
Yes, that was about 2 after. That was the gaming event.
Yeah.
It was during this time, and I was looking for places that would do events. No places wanted to do events during the heart of COVID. I remember going onto the Facebook groups and posting, does anyone know of any places that are holding events? And the amount of people that commented, like, are you stupid? Do you want to die? And all these things. But I was just like, you know what? We need to embrace our community, and we're the natural products industry, right? We're all about health and wellness, building up your immune system. And this was, something that we preach as an industry, and, not saying there's any cure or like prevention, but really building up your immune system was part of our, our morale here in the industry. So
yeah, you don't have to comment on this as the regulatory person, but I gotta say my favorite part of this was going to that Morristown event and not one person wearing a mask anyway. Like, we walked in and no one cared, and it was cool because that was my first dietary supplements industry event that year. I mean, since early that year, because Arnold had been canceled, we didn't go to that. I'd been living in a single bedroom apartment that whole year, not really seeing many of my friends. The friends that you see, like we were just talking with TJ Humphreys about, you have expo friends. You have friends that you only see at expos, and that's okay. You see them frequently, but you miss them when you don't go to these expos. And just showing up and I met Dan Fabricant that day. That was an awesome, fun one. But just getting to see everyone again was just so wonderful. And I remember coming home and just being like, I got to go to another one of those. And now it's funny because every expo we go to, there is one, to the point where we did coverage of the GNC franchise show, and Diana texted me like, what is this expo and how do I do a party at it? Which is so funny because it's like this private expo for GNC, but I was like, that's 100% true. Like, there should be a What's Up with Supps event at every expo. So you're at this point where it's pretty much just accepted that if there's an event, if there's a in-person expo, there's a attached What's Up with Supps party pretty much.
Yeah, that's what we try to do, is really, have these events in a non-competitive environment. There's so many times, as Ben mentioned, I've been in the industry for a while. I worked for Vitamin Shoppe headquarters. I worked for Solgar, NBTY, Care of, Pfizer, Emergency. And, when you work for a brand and sometimes you go to trade shows, you almost have to turn your badge around because, competitors don't want you at their booth. And, there was so many times where I'm like, I just really like your brand. Like, I can like another brand and still work for another company in the industry. There's enough to go around. I want to respect other companies in the industry because, at the end of the day, we may end up working for that company, who knows, but it's just, it's a very small industry. And that's where I kind of wanted the non-competitive environment. So that's why, a lot of the events, they're just, we hang out, we have fun, we have some sort of crazy entertainment that I come up with my head. It's really my excuse to dress up in a costume, but that's kind of where let's not forget to be kids, and that's really where like this retro toy theme came about. We're growing up, we're getting older, marriage, kids, etc. But let's not forget that have that childlike mentality to just embrace being playful, and that's where a lot of the awesome creativity comes from. And the more you use it, the more you foster it, the more it grows. So that was kind of the thought behind this.
I love everything about you saying. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back. There's like 50 things to cover, but for the sake of this party, what do we have to bring anything? Like, do I need to come in wearing a slinky or something like that? Or is this, can I just show up as I am? Because I'm not exactly a costume person anymore, at least, but.
Totally get that. So we will have a life-size slinky walking around that you could take pictures with. You don't
And
need to wear anything special if you don't want to. No suits, no ties. You know, it's very casual. We will have a costume contest though, as we always do at SupplySide West because it is near Halloween. So we'll be giving out prizes for the best costume, the most creative, and the funniest. So, you know, feel free to dress up if you want to dress up, no pressure, or you could just like enjoy all the costumes that are around you.
Like Mike, I'm not a costume person, and I've gone to the Supply Side Show Expo party previously and stood around people in extremely in-depth costumes. I can't believe the costumes that some of these people will fly with, like full on, like the stuff that you watch on TV shows, like for like the professionals. Just I didn't even recognize some of my friends showing up, but as a person just wearing a button-up shirt and jeans, I felt very at home still. So one of the things that I wanted to bring up is how you guys, kind of in a similar way to us, uh, comment on the industry through the parties that you guys do. Like one of my favorite ones that I've been to was this year at the Sports and Active Nutrition Summit, where you guys, your party was kind of dedicated to Hector Lopez, which was, I thought, incredibly well put together and heartfelt. That, you know, it honestly wasn't overly sad because we were all friends with Dr. Lopez, and it was like a celebration of him. But you guys did an incredible job of bringing people together who were fans of his, while not taking away from the normal party that you guys were throwing as well.
Yeah, that was an amazing event. And I had spoken to Hector's wife several months before the event, and she was a Yari, and she was super supportive. Hector's business partner, and you know, Hector was local to us. You know, so a lot he knew everyone in the sports nutrition industry, and you know, it was very much like everybody says with Hector. You know, no ego. He's you know the smartest man in the room, but you'll never know it. And what was really you know, what was really important was to have it at that SANS summit because that was the last, to my knowledge, the last time that Hector had spoken on a panel. I remember we were both on a panel that year, and actually, I think he was on a few other panels. But you know, just that community was very, very tight knit, and you know, I think it was something like $8,000 we had raised for his charity that they were donating to for his children's education. So you know, we used it for good. And I remember, I think I sent you this picture, Ben. There was one video where everyone was giving the eulogy, and there was this crazy sun that was shining down on everyone. It had this beautiful aura, and we knew that Hector was there blessing the event.
Yeah, it felt good to be there with you guys. You know, I think we all had our personal relationships with Dr. Lopez. Like my friendship with him wasn't like a super public thing where like we were part, but like everyone kind of came together and all had their own stories or own experiences with him, which was a lot of fun. So I want to kind of get into the rest of your jobs that you seem to have all over, with Nutrabolt, a VP of Regulatory and Government Affairs. That seems quite like large and cumbersome. Like that.
advertising and the claims that we make. So, I love it. And, I love sports nutrition. It's really my sweet spot. But just Nutrabolt is an amazing company with such a heritage and such legacy that, it just makes every day just amazing.
So that's a lot of stuff. And I love all this. Regulatory is like where I think like a lot of my passion lies. We don't often get to really talk about this. So do you review every label that comes through? What's like a responsibility? Because that you just talked about like 12 different jobs pretty much. Are you reviewing every single label that comes through?
Yeah, so either me or someone on my team will review every single label several times. So my roles are really all of the new innovation and making sure that all the new innovation US, so domestic and globally, that everything is up to par with the regulatory framework, that we're being able to support the claims that we're making, and then working with Chris Lockwood on the substantiation for those claims. And then, like I said, I do have a team. Domestic and global. So we're reviewing every single label several times for compliance.
That's awesome. So like recently they just started using Pepti Strong in one of your testosterone boosters. It's a new ingredient. So for instance, for consumers listening, like you guys have to go through the data and make sure that any kind of a muscle growth claim or whatever you guys are saying on the bottle is substantiated with enough data, because Nutrabolt is large enough that you guys are on people's crosshairs, right? Like, you guys have to cover your ass, so to speak, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and both FTC and FDA have substantiation requirements, so we follow those substantiation requirements. But then also, with research methods, so you can have, you could find a study for pretty much anything, but when you have to critically evaluate that study using research methods, look for biases, look for any conflicts of interest. So this is a lot of the work that I did during my master's. One of my favorite classes was research methods, and my professor at the time, she really made it sure that we looked at all of the other stuff in the study. So a lot of people will look at the abstract, right, the front page. Oh, it supports this. Okay, done, right? So she really instilled in us the middle part, right, the methods and all of that analysis. That's the unsexy stuff that you have to pay attention to be able to see if those are quality studies. So that's really very long and daunting, but I enjoy it because when you see how these things work and you see, oh wow, like this is producing this result in a significant part of the population, then you're like, it might be onto something. So that's one of my favorite things to do.
Absolutely. So what did you do at Vitamin Shop before that? You dropped that. I have to ask, because that's obviously a huge brand that a lot of our consumers watch.
Yeah. Vitamin Shop was awesome. I worked there for several years at the headquarters in North Bergen, and I actually had a dual role, product development and regulatory. They were both under the same team, so I really got my hands in both aspects. Like the product development part is so fun, especially on sports nutrition products, because they have to taste good, right? And they have to smell good and they have to look good. So you're working with a lot of powders like bars and stuff, and I just remember going to the flavor houses and maybe, spending like a day or two there just working on the flavor development and testing out multiple iterations of the same product, which I will say, if you have a weak stomach, doing that for a full day can really get to you. So I did, like I worked a lot of the product development, but also with the product development, the regulatory aspect of creating the label. After we work on the formula, you have to then create the label, then make sure that the label meets all the regulatory requirements. And, this was at a time when we were starting to expand ex-US as well. So that was really fun. And, on top of that, just working on the legal side, claim substantiation and all that fun stuff.
That's awesome.
Nice. So do you have a weak stomach? Were you able to handle the tastings?
I remember going to one of our flavor houses, and it was down the Parkway. So it like coming home, and how if you live in Jersey, how the Parkway is going north so we were coming home, and we were probably stuck in that Parkway traffic. It was bumper to bumper. I had to lay down in the back. I thought I was going to throw up because all that stuff was just sitting in my stomach. So that's where I always say, make sure you don't take too many in one day.
Yeah.
Mike and I, when Nutrabolt came out with the Project Clear Evolution, did like 12 flavors in one video. And then we did like 6 videos that day. And I remember just like sitting down on his couch after and just being like, I know that I'm safe. I know that I'm not going to get cancer from all this sucralose, but I don't feel good right now. Like it's a lot. It's like
you just get, I call it just getting bombed out. At some point you're just done with it. You need like a 24-hour sweet detox, and then everything goes back to normal. It is pretty funny, but when you have to get a flavor set, like at least started, that's how it's going to have to be. So I had to ask. So, you mentioned earlier putting out some fires and everything. I got to ask, probably don't have to answer, but we've seen and Ben made a video on this C5 thing. Do you have any comments, or is no comment the comment?
Well, I'm just shocked that someone had the balls to actually do that, because they know that Nutrabolt is a very large company with a very stacked legal team. So that's all I'm saying is I'm very shocked that C5 had the audacity to do that.
Right. And so I guess maybe being international, they're trying to do something, but even then, you like you said, stacked team and everything. So
C4 is international, right? Like that was kind of my takeaway, right? My favorite part of that post was the sheer amount of comments about Michael DiMaggio. Like he's become like an underground legend. Like the fact that I didn't even know this many people, like in just the normal mainstream part of this industry, knew who Mike DiMaggio was. I was like, this is incredible. This is awesome.
But yeah, I mean, this goes back to what you said earlier. A lot of brands working better together nowadays, because I sometimes jokingly call it an inbred industry, but it's like it's not that big of an industry for as much consumerism that is attached to it, and for as much like maybe revenue that flows through it. So we all do start to know each other, which is why it's great that you have What's Up with Supps parties, and we are starting to, you're starting to see less of the brawling going on at like trade shows, for instance, because 2 strikes and you're out of this industry and everything. So obviously, like, not all jobs last forever, and people don't want to like burn bridges, and there's not that many bridges in this industry. So it's so it makes sense that you want to be more collaborative and open with things in this industry. So that's why I'm like excited about these parties, and excited to finally be able to attend one.
You are gonna love it. We'll make sure. We'll make sure we get pictures of him with the giant slinky.
I'm gonna bring something. I don't know, maybe steal one of my daughter's toys or something.
We will have our Nintendo World Corner. So if either of you, and I'm sure you are a fan of old school Nintendo and Duck Hunt, we'll have those available.
Oh, cool. Really?
Very cool.
That's great. So how do you come up with these ideas? What was the generation of this idea?
I've been wanting to do this one for a while. I'm a huge fan of pop culture. Like I just love pop culture, and there's just so many icons, and just the Toy Story movie, and going to Disney and going to Toy Story Land. I went to Disney last year, and when I went to Toy Story Land, I was like, this is amazing. Like I went on the Slinky Dog roller coaster. They had the stormtroopers walking around in the Star Wars world. They had those green toy soldiers walking around, the little toys. And I was like, why do kids only get to experience this? And there's so much nostalgia from when we were growing up with all of these retro toys. And, that's kind of where it started from. And then I just started building on it. And I have a really great talent head who lives in Vegas that Ben, you might have seen her at some of our events. Her name is Saturn. She comes around with us all across the country. And, we work really well together. We bounce ideas off of each other. And, and I said in the beginning of the podcast, the more you ideate and get creative, the more you use that creativity, the more creative you get. So it's just really great to just feel, how big these ideas can get.
And they keep getting bigger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find a lot of success with my daughter, at least with the more retro toys, or I guess my wife's retro toys. She's had Barbie stuff that we've moved this stuff around the country as we've moved around and everything. And I've always like kind of rolled my eyes at bringing Barbie toys around. And it turns out that the kid absolutely loves them. Like the formula works. And so for there's been new toys and everything, but it's the retro stuff that it still captures the mind and everything. And as long as you're not like addicting a kid to a tablet, for instance, the stuff that worked is like the proven formula and everything. So I'm all for the retro toys. I have never solved a Rubik's Cube myself, though. I'll admit.
Only way is taking off the stickers and putting them back on.
That never worked for me. Yeah, so
I'm going to research this. I want to be able to solve one at the party, I think.
I know. We try to present ourselves as smart in this industry. I don't want to go and embarrass myself at a Rubik's Cube, but maybe we should do a little bit of practice. That's great. So I'm not sure. I'm kind of bouncing around a little bit myself, but like so the first time we got to hang out in person was actually in Washington, D.C. And that's when I also first met Mike DiMaggio. We got to get him on the podcast too. His name keeps coming up over and over. And like I said, like small industry, I think everyone knows like there's a couple powerhouses back there at Nutrabolt, and he is clearly one of them and everything. So we first got to hang out in DC. We actually got into a few meetings together. From Nutrabolt's perspective, what were some of the goals going into Washington DC? What is I guess we could make it as a two-pronged question. What does Nutrabolt want in Washington DC, and what does Diana want in Washington DC?
Yeah. So, Nutrabolt is a very big active nutrition company. So we have our energy drinks, we have sports nutrition products, pre-workout, protein powder. There's a lot going on the Hill in terms of restricting access of sports nutrition products to people under 18. So, there are a few bills that are on the floor right now that if they get passed, any product that's making a weight loss claim or weight management claim would need to go behind the counter, say like at a Walmart or a Target. So you would need to show your ID before you could purchase that product. So, the rationale, or what I understand the rationale behind this, is that sports nutrition products can lead to eating disorders. And we do know from many very smart people that have written scientific papers on this that is not the case, that they do not contribute to eating disorders. So anything that has that weight loss claim, and that's something that would restrict access to products that could help you lose weight, which isn't obesity, one of the biggest killers of people in the world. So you're restricting access to products that could help you lose weight because some unfounded theory is saying that there is a correlation to eating disorders. So that's one of the really big issues going on from a policy perspective that we wanted to talk about on the Hill. And the other thing is restricting access to energy drinks. So a lot of, whether it's the media or, people on the Hill, like senators, believe that energy drinks are harmful. And, I was actually talking to a lawyer about this the other day. He was on a case and he just happened to have a 16-ounce Starbucks cup on the stand. And you know how much caffeine is in a Starbucks compared to an energy drink? Almost 400 milligrams. These energy drinks, 200, we have a higher one that's 300. But if you go to a Starbucks in the morning during school time, you see the amount of kids that are walking in and out of Starbucks, or the kids that are getting dropped off by their parents at Starbucks. So, it's really unfounded how a lot of these issues are coming up, that energy drinks are unsafe. And, it might just be that, it's in a metal can and it just looks scarier than a cup of coffee. But if it's really the caffeine content that's the concern, they should be going after Starbucks.
It's a challenging thing because, I'll age myself a little bit, but back in my day, there was very few people. If someone drank coffee in high school, it was a big deal. And there was the whole Jesse Spano episode of Saved by the Bell with it was basically no-dose, but it was a caffeine pill, and she got addicted. And it was kind of hilarious so looking back.
Yeah, we all know that.
Yeah. So on one end, it's okay, obviously something has changed because I know kids now that are less than 13 years old that are, I'm going to say, flat out addicted to caffeine. So something to me has definitely changed. And I don't know if I like that because everyone should be getting better sleep and all that. But at the same time, we have a lot of safety data on this, and conservative governments basically can put it around 400 milligrams per day total for like a standard average like adult at least. That is the kind of the safety limit. So in my opinion, I don't think caffeine is terrible, like a terrible thing. I also don't want the kids to have to rely on it, but I also don't want the government to have to like do more stuff to nanny state this thing either. So I'm kind of all over the place here. So I was kind of curious to see where you stand there.
Yeah, so I think there is a lot of safety data around that sweet spot of 400 milligrams of caffeine. We do know that caffeine, when used properly, can be very effective. You know, the ISSN has how many papers on the safety of caffeine and enhancing performance, mental focus, clarity, and I think that's kind of where there needs to be the delineation. Yeah, I definitely don't want an 8-year-old drinking a C4, but I think when we're starting to get a little bit older, um, I don't think I had my first cup of coffee until I was probably like in college. Yeah, I didn't have my first cup of coffee until I was in college. So I was of that same mentality that, coffee was for like our parents, right? And I think, have that responsible marketing. So, there's a lot of college students that do drink energy drinks, and we clearly label our products 18 and older, so we are respectful of that safety concern. So I think just with the demonizing of energy drinks, it's really there's no rationale, because you do see a lot of the responsible brands that are clearly labeling their products. We're clearly labeling the amount of caffeine in it. Not really a crazy amount. It is still within that safety limit. And then having clear warning statements and directions for use. So, over 18, do not drink with other caffeine containing products, and really measures to make sure that, people that might be sensitive to caffeine do monitor that. Whereas if you have someone that, can go a gram a day, that, um, you know, they could do that. So it's just really proper labeling.
Yeah, it's
Ben,
tough
I was
because
gonna.
I constantly push like we can't recommend dietary supplements to people under 18 in the first place. So it's kind of like a tough discussion at the same time, right? Like I think they should have the ability to go do it, but I don't think anyone should be marketing to them at the same time. Like, like we just saw that with Truth in Advertising versus Ghost and Rise, and I think Nutrabolt was also named in that. Like we can't be marketing to kids, but at the same time, in a healthy dose, you're talking about 200 milligrams with Smart Energy. Like I think that's a great dosage for, I would say 16 and up. When I was in high school, I was drinking, a 200 milligram, or I think even like Red Bulls are like 87 milligrams, like it's I think it's a reasonable thing. But at the same time, you can't be marketing to them.
Yeah, and yeah, right. Obviously, if someone's like 16 years old and they're tired, I would rather them have some caffeine, and if they're driving, have some caffeine and some focus and drive better. And because young kids are not always the best drivers, we'll just say, but also like a lot of them are not eating right. And with Smart Energy, you got cognizant acetylcholine, which if someone's like low on choline, they're just gonna feel fantastic from that stuff. So it to me, like a lot of the pros are gonna outweigh the cons. And the way C4 Smart Energy is labeled, it doesn't look at all like it's like catering towards kids or anything. I wanted to see. Yeah, look at that. I mean, that's
very pretty.
It's professional. It is. Yeah. And they do you guys are killing it with that product. It's I would say it's a little bit more feminine than some, but it's like guys have no problem picking it up and drinking one of those. So it definitely does really well. Ben, I was going to point out, wasn't there, I don't know if Diana's seen this, wasn't there a label that we saw when we were in Pittsburgh with they put like FDA on the actual can? Is that Rain?
Storm from, who owns Rain? I'm sorry. But Rain has their new Storm, and on the front of it, it says FDA.
Yeah, I don't want to misquote. I don't want to
misquote this. Yeah,
but yeah. So generally,
I've seen some companies have like FDA GMP facility,
I found it.
which so.
Sorry.
Yeah, that in the past, I've seen that.
FDA regulated beverage, which I
Yeah,
think
that
is
was
really interesting. And also to go a little further on the back of the bottle, it also, they said, Rainstorm is an FDA regulated beverage, not a dietary supplement masquerading as a beverage, which was a really interesting thing because it is a nutrition facts panel. And Diane, I don't know if you have input or feedback on this, but the difference between dietary supplements and nutrition facts panels is obviously in energy drinks has been a bit of a big deal because there's different there's different GRAS levels for different ingredients. Like in a food, taurine can't be over, I think, 100 milligrams, but in dietary supplement, obviously we can do grams of it. So to meet that, like for instance, Ghost has to use a supplement facts panel on Ghost Energy to put some of those ingredients in there legally. You'd have to, I don't know if Smart Energy is a supplement facts or nutrition facts panel, but it is interesting.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know if we need to show this. I'm on HEB.com. I don't know if I can share my screen. Maybe Ben can, but there, I have it up on HEB.com. Shows like just a corner of the image where it's got an FDA and then a check mark,
FDA
and then it does
regulated
say
beverage.
Rainstorm is a FDA regulated beverage, not a dietary supplement masquerade as a beverage. I just think that's very interesting. Have
Yeah, so
you
I
ever
have
seen
2
that?
points to that. The first one I do want to address, since I am in regulatory, I have seen FDA send warning letters to companies for using their name on labeling, advertising. The reason why FDA has sent warning letters on this to companies is because it's implying to the consumer that the FDA has some sort of blessed their product or approved it, which the FDA does not want companies using their logo or their initials, their letters, anything on their product. So if I would be very careful if I was that company, and I would probably remove that to not get a warning letter from the FDA first. The second piece around masquerading as a dietary supplement, this was a guidance that FDA came out with. I think it was 2014 or 2015, but FDA actually came out with a guidance around distinguishing liquid dietary supplements from beverages. And this was at a time where a lot of drinks look like a drink, talk like a drink, sounded like a drink, but they were labeled as a dietary supplement. So it was, a lot of liquid in one can, the way that they were calling themselves a beverage. And, the big thing with nutrition facts for supplement facts are the ingredients that you can use because to put an ingredient into a food, it needs to be GRAS for its intended use. So that's generally recognized as safe. So it could either be FDA GRAS, part of a regulation, or you could do a self-affirmed GRAS, but then it has to also be in the food supply. And with the self-affirmed GRAS, a lot of people think, oh, and I've gotten this when I've asked for GRAS documents from suppliers. It's not just a one page say, this ingredient is GRAS. That's not a GRAS affirmation. So please stop doing that, suppliers. It really is by a scientific panel of doctors, PhDs, scientists that are evaluating the science that whatever ingredient that they're looking at is safe, and that's very key is safety. It's safe for that population, whether it's adults, whether it's children, whatever, pregnant women, whatever the population is, and then a certain amount. So it's not just this ingredient, any amount, any population. No, it's for its intended use. So also in the GRAS dossier or the safe, the affirmation, which is usually like 50, 60, 70, 100 pages long. They go through all the safety of, ingesting this. And then, if an ingredient is in a food, the regulatory framework for food, there's no directions for use like a dietary supplement. So FDA theoretically says you could eat or drink as much as you want of this product. So we have whatever ingredient is going to be in that beverage or food that theoretically it's, self-limiting in one day. Like I can only eat 10 brownies in one day. So, theoretically, when you're doing the GRAS affirmation, you would calculate how many someone would eat in a day and tie that safety factor into it.
Interesting. So I don't know if Ed's got a question, but like, I obviously what you just said is going to be at Nutrabolt is going to be more strict than your average company and far more strict than some other companies and everything. Do you require if you're going through their self GRAS affirmation? First off, some companies don't even share their own internal data to say it's affirmed. I assume you're going to need to see more to at least see it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm very thorough. One of my jobs that we didn't talk about before, I worked for Pfizer for the emergency brand, and really got a great foundation. Learned so much about the entire regulatory landscape, but not from the pharma side, but still being under like the pharma bubble. It's a very deep level of substantiation requirements. So that's really what I'm looking for to make sure that the products that we're putting out that I am signing off on are safe. We do have a substantial amount of data because I'm a consumer myself. And if I, was on the other end of it, I'd really want to know that that company that's putting out that energy drink or that protein powder is actually looking at it from a safety lens, because, it's FDA's top priority is consumer safety. So, there shouldn't be any cases where, someone gets sick, like, a foodborne illness, or just you put too much of something in your product that you didn't study enough, that you could really cause, damage to someone.
And does that data need to be human based? Like how far? Obviously, like we see a lot of LD50 data on mice and everything. I'm assuming that's not enough.
Yeah.
And she's
So,
adding.
in the FTC's and FDA's substantiation guidance, it doesn't specifically say human versus animal, but obviously human studies are preferred because versus animal or petri dishes, because the way things interact in a human body is your intended population. However, if you are able to really bridge that gap and show or support that whatever response the animal is getting or you're getting in the lab, that it can be replicated in humans. So you need to have some way to extrapolate the mechanism of action on how it's going to be working in the body. So if human studies are always preferred. There are also other sources of substantiation. For some more like older ingredients. I love adaptogenic herbs. Like they've been used for how long in Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine herbs. There's a lot of really great data on some of these traditional herbs that we really need to start tapping into more. And those are going back so long, so you might not get the traditional clinical trial because it's still it's still in India that they're still using it. It really hasn't made its way to the US just yet, but there is so much going on that ancient level that we haven't even tapped into yet.
Totally agreed.
Mm-hmm. So you've mentioned, I don't know, Ben, I'm going to keep going.
Go for it. Keep going.
You've mentioned Chris Lockwood, and another person we got to get on the podcast. One of the smartest minds that you can talk to in this industry. So are you willing to tease anything he's been doing? Are we gonna, and how is he used by the Nutrabolt company, I guess, is another question.
Yeah. You definitely hit the nail on the head. He is probably one of the smartest people I know. I was just saying that to someone the other day. And for those that don't know Chris Lockwood, he used to be an industry professor. So he has PhD in nutrition, anything that you need to know about how something works in the body. He knows it off the top of his head. And he, has a really great way of teaching how nutrients work in the body. And he does a lot of cool stuff for Nutrabolt in terms of clinical trials. So we've conducted some clinical trials on our energy drinks that have been published in, I believe it was out of the Auburn University. And we also recently did an event at the ISSN conference back in June in Fort Lauderdale, the International Society of Sports Nutrition. And for those of you that don't know what the ISSN is, it's basically an organization that teaches nutrition and exercise physiology students through a lot of PhDs. So they go to the ISSN to basically learn everything about nutrition and exercise physiology. So at the ISSN annual conference, a lot of the PhD students had their poster sessions. So a poster session is basically like what it says, a big poster, and the PhD students that conducted clinical trials would share their results on this big poster. So Chris was actually there with some PhD students, and they had done a clinical trial on our Extend Healthy Hydration product, and they were just sharing the results there. We had really great results on this clinical trial that we're going to be announcing the claims, I believe, on PAC pretty soon. So this was a clinical trial for our hydration formula, which is amazing, by the way. No carbohydrates. We use an amino acid transport system for the electrolytes. And Chris Lockwood led that research for our product, and it showed superior to one of the top sports drinks in the marketplace.
Cool.
No, so is he kind of arguing that the amino acids in the Extend support hydration delivery better than just not having them, or something along those lines?
Exactly.
Ooh,
Exactly.
okay.
And that's one of the key factors. You want to make sure you get the electrolytes into the cells, and have that hydration. But a lot of times, people that are maybe like very conscious of what they're consuming don't want the extra carbohydrates. So this is a really great option. It tastes amazing. I have the lemon lime at my house, and I drink it every day. There's all the 6 key electrolytes in there, and so that's one of the big things that Chris has really stepped up the game, and helping us with our clinical trials. He leads all the substantiation, the product, helping to like create the formula for the product, and Chris. Chris is working hand in hand with a lot of research labs on more clinical trials for us.
Very
Gotcha. So Ben,
I was going to say, Chris Lockwood's going to be on a panel with myself at Kiowa's booth at SupplySide this year. So we'll be recording that if people are interested in learning more about him. We've spent a small amount of time with Chris, but it seems like every week over the last couple of months, we've had someone say that Chris Lockwood is the smartest person that they know. So I'm getting increasingly excited about this panel with him.
Definitely. Okay. On the note of amino acids, do you or Nutrabolt have any commentary on the argument that they should be counted as calories? Has this been going around the office at all, or?
Yeah, so FDA has really opined on this already, and I stand with the FDA's position that individual amino acids do not contribute to total protein and should not be counted as calories. When you have an entire protein that's made up of all the amino acids, that's when it can be counted towards calories associated with protein. But I stand with the FDA's position that in isolation, individual amino acids should not be counted as calories.
Gotcha. Thank you for answering. Yeah, you've answered every question that I wasn't sure I was gonna get an answer from. Ben sent me a link. C4 Energy announces bold new super brain performance claims. I think that was a Chris Lockwood study. Awesome. There's a lot going on. Yeah. So I see it's like, Chris he has a new lab or whatever. He's gonna be putting out a lot of stuff. We're gonna have to try to keep up with some of that and bring him on. I'm pretty clean out of questions here as far as I know. I was rapid firing a few of them. I'm not sure if Ben's got anything else there.
No, we were rapid firing the whole hour. So I actually am kind of out of questions, but we've had a great discussion. I'm kind of excited to just get to the What's Up with Supps party.
Bruh, so I guess going back to you, did you always throw the parties as the teenager and in college or whatever? Is this a normal thing for you?
It's funny. Yeah, I love throwing parties. And my grandma, I never really got to meet her. She died before I was born, but I was named after her. And my grandma, she lived in Manhattan, and she was an event planner. And she, being Italian, she was a Latin from Manhattan. So I guess I got that in my bloodline.
Yep. I have a family of entertainers out here. And so when we moved to Oklahoma, our daughter is in a school, and we were really happy. But one thing that we don't have here that we had in the last school was a daddy-daughter dance. So I am working with proposing that to the school and everything. So I don't know if that's actually going to happen or it'll be approved, but I'm throwing myself into this whole party planning mode too. So it is. We were talking before the podcast that you're Italian, I'm like half Italian, half Sicilian a little bit, and we definitely have it in our DNA that it's entertaining and sharing and getting people together and everything. So I got to teach these folks in Oklahoma how it's done.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, Diana, thank you for joining us. Yeah, so we got a few things how to follow you, and if you have anything else to talk about, feel free. I pulled up on your website, C4 Ultimate Energy with WWE. We got some fun stuff happening, of course.
Oh,
but
I love wrestling so much. I got to go to SummerSlam. It was an amazing time. We have this huge partnership with WWE. I'm a huge wrestling fan, so I'm definitely in the right place at the right time. But so if anyone wants to follow What's Up with Supps, you go to our website, you go to our Instagram, and that's what's_up_with_supps. And then we also have a LinkedIn page. And then, feel free to reach out to me or any of my my partner, Lauren, or any of our board members if anyone's interested in sponsoring or coming to the events. The event will be that Thursday, October 26th from 5 to 11. So from 5 to 8 is going to be more of the networking. And then from 8 to 11 is going to be ramped up. And then we'll also have a silent auction, which is benefiting the Sonoran Sage Foundation. So Sonoran University used to be called the Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Arizona. And their foundation basically supplies all the funds needed to operate a clinic out in Arizona for naturopaths and doctors and nurses. So we always have some sort of charitable events at our events. And this one will have a lot of fun stuff that you could bid on. The one I'm looking forward to bidding on, which I hope I win, is a Friday the 13th poster signed by the creator of Friday the 13th.
Wow. That's a big deal.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, okay. So yeah, we'll have links on the show notes for everything. We'll try to get this out at a good time before SupplySide and everything. Everyone's very excited. Our schedule is getting packed up. So it's going to be a fun time and we'll definitely be looking forward to seeing you there.
Yeah. This is the last day of the show, right? This is the show ender, right?
It is. Yes. It's a show closer. And, it's great because even people that are taking the red eye can still pop in from like the 5 to 8.
That's a great point. I know a couple people taking that red eye, and I don't envy them, but these parties are definitely worth it. I'm helping a friend that just got into selling dietary supplements for like an Amazon conglomerate. They're going to SupplySide for the first time, and they asked me where I thought they should invest their time, and I was like, What's Up with Supps is probably like the one-stop shop for networking at events like this. So thank you for all that you do. We're super excited to attend.
Oh yeah, so happy to have you guys there, and I'll see you guys in Vegas.
Awesome.
See you there. Thank you.